Lisa, welcome to the show.
I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited. I've been thinking about you for months and I've been so excited to have you on because it feels like such a full circle moment for me, having been on your show. And I'm excited to hear your story because I don't really know it. Like, I only know kind of the little bits that you had shared with me when we spoke. Um, So I'd love to start with if you could just kind of tell us your transition from New Age to Christian, and then we can go wherever we go.
Here we go. I just want to say I was so excited when I received your email, just with your full circle, and that our podcast episode had kind of like planted a seed, we'll say, of yeah, the Bible and everything for you.
Well,
So
I'll say for people like I, you were just like another one of, there's so many people, right, who have like gone from New Age to Christian. And when we spoke, I was in such a phase of I might have even I don't know if I had bought the Bibles yet at that point, but I had like I was like I want to believe in God. I think I had said something to you like that. Like I want that, but I just don't have like I don't know how to get there. I can't get there. And I at the time felt so removed, like I wanted to believe, but I felt like almost like it was too late for me. And my biggest like ego thoughts were like, I don't know, I'm just like too smart for it now. Like I'm too jaded. I've like done too many spiritual things. Like all of these stories, like maybe I just, I wish I could be like a dumb Christian person who could just believe. Too bad I'm just not that. But I could still like deeper in my heart feel it. Like I wanted I as much as I said to people like, "Oh, I feel the same thing," because I would say like to Christian friends I met like they would explain how they felt God and I would be like, "Well, I feel like I have that. I just call it nature. Or I just call it whatever."
yeah,
But I didn't really. Like I still knew that I didn't fully feel it. I knew it wasn't the same, but I wanted to believe that it was the same so that I didn't have to feel this pressure of like trying to find my way there. Um, and we can go into different pieces of my story too, but yeah,
yeah,
you were another one of those people where I was like, she has it too, and like just another little light that's like, this is the way. I just don't know how do I have that?
right. That makes so much sense. I think like when you were speaking to that, what came to mind is when we're worshiping, I'll use that word, nature or a goddess or many gods or whatever it might be, there's not a lot of structure to it. It's boundless. It's not like confined to
Mhm.
one thing. And I think when we have that structure and it's like there are parameters to it and there's like a narrow path to it, it feels that much more supportive because you're kind of contained
Yeah,
in it. And so it's like I know what it is. It's not boundless. It's not many, many things. It's
yeah,
one thing.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are searching for that. So my journey to Christianity, I was Christian when I was in my early 20s. I didn't grow up with any church in my life. My dad was, he would say he was atheist, but he was actually agnostic. And so I never was baptized, nothing when I was a kid. And then in my early 20s, I was Pentecostal, which is just a form of Christianity.
They do the speaking in tongues, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Did
The
you do that?
church. No, but I did it last night.
Oh.
Because now I go to an Alliance Christian church and it's like charismatic as well. And they're like the gifts. And yeah, I just started like speaking in
What
some.
does that mean, charismatic, the gift?
Well, in Christianity, there or in the Bible, there are gifts as well, like
Oh,
prophetic,
like speaking in
seers,
tongues or something.
speaking in tongues. Like there are all these godly gifts that can be bestowed upon us, which are quite similar to gifts in New Age. And it's pretty wild to see like the parallels, but there's just a slight inversion
Mm-hmm.
for the New Age world. So yeah, the church I go to now speaks in tongues as well. But I was Pentecostal, and then I got mad at God, and I was just kind of like, what the frick?
Wait, how
Is it?
did you first find your way? If you didn't grow up religious, what made you join the church in the first place?
Um, I used to be an interior designer, and I was in design school, and my best friend was a born again Christian. And so I was dating her brother, and she was like, "Do you want to come to church with me?" And I've always been like a seeker.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's like I have this guy over that goes to my church, and he's going to start holding retreats for men on the property, on my property that I live on. And it's like, as Christians, we're all evangelists, and we're kind of like, we'll just like talk about church, when non-believers are around us, and then they might like ask questions, and then we'll be like, well, you should come to church sometime, and then they usually don't, and then you see them in a really bad situation, like in pain in their life, and it's like, yeah, no, I think you need to come to church. And so that kind of happened to me when I was in my early 20s, where my friend Christine was like, you need to come to church. So that's how it came on my path back in my 20s. And then I left and went down some other paths, and yoga and new age and sobriety and all kinds of things. And then fast forward, I moved out to the coast from Alberta, fully in the new age world, priestess, yoga teacher, all the things, came to this coast. And just weird little things started happening. Like I was learning to read tarot. And my neighbor at the time was like a little bit, I mean, he had some mental fluctuations and stuff, but he was really friendly with me. And he was outside, and I said, oh, well, I could read your tarot cards sometimes, like he was like a single guy. And he went off about like Freemasons and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, like kind of taken back and kind of joke, like, oh, he didn't know he had a witch living next to him. Like it was so, those terms are so flippantly used in
Yeah.
New Age. And it's like, you don't know what you're playing with. Like you,
No, and I used them with joy. I was like, I'm a witch.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
this, like,
Yeah.
I'm not scared of anything.
Yeah. And it's like,
Yeah.
in my experience, I'm like, I should have been scared of a lot of things. And so that happened. And then I was working with a breathwork mentor, and it was just like visions of washing men's feet. And just this was when Jesus was pursuing me. And Jesus pursues pretty hard sometimes. And so anyway, she like just washing men's feet and like bowing at their feet and all this stuff. And I was like, what's going on? And she started like playing Christian music while I was doing my breath healing sessions. And then I was working with another mentor, because in the new age, you have a lot of mentors all the time.
Yes.
And I was like, I want to heal my relationship with men, because that's been like my pain point my whole life. And she said, well, if you want to heal your relationship with men, you need to heal your relationship with God. And I was dating a guy named Christian at that time, and it was just all these little things. And I went to this concert on the coast here, and I just thought I was going to a concert. And it was just a concert, but one of the women that put it on was like so Christian, and she's a good friend, and she just like beams Jesus. And she's like on stage and just like praising, like praise God and like worship music. And I said to my friend, I'm like, where are we? Like, and I was like, I think I want to go to church again. And she's like, I want to go to church too. And then she's like, there's this church on the coast that everybody's going to. And that was in the fall. And then I completely forgot about it. And And she said, it's in Davis Bay. This church is in Davis Bay. Completely forgot about it. And then fast forward a couple months, I went to Texas for Christmas to see my sister. She lives in Texas, and I had a mental breakdown. And I was having, there were moments, there were panic attacks leading up to that, but it was just kind of like, oh, it's post COVID. We're all kind of like returning to normalities. I was like, I'm just not used to being around so many people. So I'm having full blown panic attacks, have a full blown uh, mental breakdown in Texas. And in Texas, like there's Jesus is everywhere. Like
Yeah.
there's like, there is drive-through prayer right beside drive-through daiquiris.
They have that in the South. They have big billboards that say like Bible quotes and
It's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And and my sister took me to church. And my sister's was at that time a non-believer. Like we didn't, she didn't believe in
Why
any.
did she take you? Just because you were struggling?
Yeah, I was at the point where I was like, take me to a mental, like
Okay.
take me to the psych ward. And she was like, we're not gonna do that. We're just gonna like I was at the point where I got an Airbnb because I didn't feel safe to stay at my sister's house. Like it was crazy. There were Jesus quotes everywhere in this Airbnb. But and so she just took me to church and I gave myself over to Jesus that night. And but like I just went up and like rang the bell or whatever like they do if you give your life over to Jesus. And so I did that and then I came back. I did a ton of acupuncture so I got myself well enough that I could come back to Canada. And when I moved to this coast, I only knew two people. One was my ex-boyfriend, and the other was a friend through Instagram, of all places. And anyway, so I came back to this coast, and the mental breakdown continued. And I
What started the mental breakdown? You don't know? Or just like,
um, I did a workshop that triggered a trauma response.
oh yeah, that was a sort of new agey.
Yeah,
Okay, I remember
and
you
I
telling me
was in menopause and I didn't know. I had lost my period, but had also been vegan for 6.5 years. And I had started eating meat again at that time. So I was full blown menopause. So I had no progesterone, no estrogen. Um, did a workshop, a yoni workshop that
that.
I
I hate that word so much. Can I just
hate it too, but I also hate saying vagina. So I'm like, I don't know.
I've started saying vulva. I used to say
Okay.
pussy for a long time because that was like my when I did like my sex coach training, it was like pussy, start feeling good about saying pussy. And now, as I'm sure you can relate, like having found God, I'm like, all these words don't feel good anymore. I don't want
No.
to say pussy. It doesn't feel good. And now I'm like, so now I say vulva.
Okay. I like that. I went to a
But
vulva.
yeah, I hate yoni. I'm like, stop saying yoni.
Yeah, yeah. I went to
Okay.
a vulva
You went
workshop.
to a yeah.
And that was in Texas. It was online. And this was like the thing, like no bound, like just the sky's the limit in New Age, right? Like I didn't think that it would trigger a trauma response and send me into a trauma response for
Mhm.
6 months. But um that's what happened. That was yeah, those were the things. It was like a collision of things that happened all at once that sent me just completely off the deep end. And so I came back to Canada. I was dating this other guy, Corey. He couldn't handle what I was going through, broke up with me. And so it's like New Year's Eve. My one friend that I had on the coast was going through a divorce. Like it was just like, and it's dark and it's dreary and it's West Coast Canada. And so I was like, I gotta go to church. Like I need something. So I Googled Davis Bay churches because I had remembered that my friend had said everybody was going to this one, and I walked into the right one. These people that I just knew of at that time, they weren't friends, were all there, and I just like the pastor's wife came up to me and was like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No." Like I was suicidal. I was scared I was going to hurt somebody else. Like completely what I come to know now is like taken over by I'd opened myself to things that were not of God
Yeah.
through the new age world. And so yeah, they prayed for me. I gave myself over to Jesus again. And that kind of began my church, like coming back to Jesus moment. I went full blown in because I was at my end. Like I was like, this is I'd always been like, I am my own savior
Yeah.
in the new age world. And actually my mom came to stay with me because I had family coming to stay with me all the time. They're like, Lisa can't be on her own. Like I went on 12 road trips in 3 months because I was in fight or flight, like constantly running from myself basically. But I was at the airport to pick up my mom, and there was a guy with a sign that said savior. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, okay. And and that was my struggle with coming back to Jesus, was that I wanted to be my own savior.
Yeah.
And then I was in such a horrendous position where it was like, I'll give it anything for you to take this from me. You know, like I can't save this one on my own. So yeah, I dove headfirst in and received deliverance, which is basically, have you heard of deliverance? It's like exorcism, basically.
Oh, is that what they did at the
Yeah.
church?
Yeah, it's a nice word for exorcism. Because like
What is it like?
um so there's kind of like a team, a deliverance team, and they're talking to you, but it's not you. And so I feel weird talking about these things, but they're so part of our everyday life, and we've been so um hidden from the supernatural, even though we're completely part of the supernatural,
Mhm.
you
Well,
know?
and I think a lot of us have been looking for those same things in different ways. So we've been
Mhm.
finding them in the new age world, or we're finding them. And for some reason, I think for people, it sounds so acceptable when talking about it in like new age terms, but then
Yeah,
it's like weird when talking about it in Christian terms.
that's so true. Yeah, because in New Age, it would just be entities.
Yeah.
There were tons of entities attached to me, like tons. And when I received deliverance, they just like, what foothold did you come in when you attached to Lisa? Like, talk to these spirits and
How
connect
do the
them.
spirits communicate through you?
Yeah,
Like you speak.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And then they remove them essentially. And yeah,
Through
I'm going,
prayer or something? Yeah.
well, yeah, commanding, like, you have no place through the blood of Jesus. I command you to leave. That kind of thing. Yeah. And so there's a book on it called Soul Care, and Dr. Rob Reamer, and he was on my podcast. And I'm going to a conference of his at the end of this month, and I'll receive deliverance again. Like it's an ongoing, as Christians, a lot of Christians believe because we are infused with the Holy Spirit, we have the blood, we have Jesus, we've given our life over to him, that we can't get attacked by anything. Some Christians believe that, others believe, well, there are still outside forces that can
Is
attach.
deliverance an evangelical thing, or does it also happen in like Orthodoxy and Catholicism?
Um, I don't know about Orthodox. I had this guy on my podcast, David Patrick Harry, and I think that's his name. I don't remember exactly, but he's Eastern Orthodox, and I don't know if we spoke about deliverance. I'd have to like check in with some of my Orthodox friends if they have heard of deliverance, but it might be like an evangelist thing, evangelical.
When I want to go back to that sentence for a second that you said, like because I think we hear this a lot, like I gave my life over to Jesus. And I've wondered at multiple points, I still kind of wonder, at what point does it become fully true? Like, have I given because I've said that phrase or like I've said a prayer, but I can feel in myself that I do not 100% mean it. I still have a tiny part of me that's like, do I trust it all the way? I don't know. And so I haven't really been able to fully say, I feel like with integrity, like, yes, I've given my life over to Jesus because I still feel that bit of like, I'm being gentle with myself. I'm like, I know I'll get there, but I'm just sort of like, when does it become true? When you feel it all the way?
Yeah, I think it's like I went through baptism as well. And
As an
that,
adult? Yeah, I guess so.
yeah, I
Mhm.
was baptized on September 3rd, a year and a half ago. So not this past September, the
Huh.
September before, in the ocean here. It was really beautiful. And so that felt like I feel like it's like thresholds.
Hmm.
And it feels like another threshold, another threshold. And that felt like a big one. Um, but like I think we're always in. And so after that, I can say I've given my life over to Jesus, like full stop. But there still are things where I'm like, do I fully trust you on this one? You know, like there, like I think we're always in a bit of a battle, like the world's a spiritual battlefield, like legitimately, and we're always in this battle of Satan and not God, Satan and us, really. Um, and so I think there's always like the spirit of fear that's going to come in, or the spirit of lack, or whatever it is. And so we're what I've experienced and what I see in the church is like those things come in. And so we can't fully trust if there's like a little bit of fear, but we can like recognize that fear and come back to God and come back to God and come back to God. It's like submission, submission, submission. But there is that part of us that's like, yeah, I want to have control. But I think you'll know when you're like, I've given my life over to Jesus. Like you'll know.
I think so too. And I think that I feel this, it's been so precious to me. Like I've only just started sharing, I think sometime in March, maybe the beginning of March, I wrote my first post to tell people. And I only did because it was coming out anyway. Because like in my podcast, like when I would talk to people and write things, it's like I can't even communicate now without being able to say like this is the lens which I'm now seeing everything through because it's changed so much. But when it started happening was last summer and it's felt so tender and precious for me that I have wanted to protect it and I've also wanted to be very in integrity like I don't want to say something that I don't mean because I see a lot of people too, like I'm sure you've seen them. There are definitely some influencers who have just like jumped into Christianity and then it's just like their identity, but it doesn't really feel grounded. It just feels sort of like a new cult like thing. And I'm just like, that's not it either. Like it's
Yeah.
Christianity, but it's not right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally get that. My transition coming out to the world was very slow. Because I was nervous. I lost thousands of followers.
Did you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I got some messages. I got some like, do you feel bad for leading women in new age circles now? Like, all that kind of stuff. Because I had Doreen Virtue on my
Oh,
podcast, and she's like
she became super Christian,
super
right?
Christian, yeah, and she feels really bad. I mean, she had a huge platform and like selling all these angel cards. I personally don't think that she should feel bad. She was doing what we go through different stages or seasons in life. But anyway, I got messages like, do you feel bad? And all
But
that.
those are messages about like from Christians, sort of, right?
No,
No.
from New Age, from
New
New Age,
Age people, why would they be saying you would feel bad?
because I had led all these people through New Age, through women's circles, all the thing. And now I'm Christian. So used to stand for something that I don't believe in anymore.
So they thought, but they were still New Age, and they thought
Yeah.
you should feel bad that now you've changed.
Yeah.
People are so annoying. I remember before I met Jordan, I don't even know if you probably don't know anything about this phase of my life, but I was like right before I met Jordan, I was like in my sex coach phase, I would post photos of like my menstrual blood on my face, and I was just like this big internet uh sensation. And when I met Jordan and then I like fell in love and then things started to change, I would get these angry messages from people being like, you were supposed to be feminist and you were supposed to be like, they're just like so mad. I feel like no matter what you do, when people follow you online and they don't even know you, then you change. They're just like, how dare you? You were
Yeah.
this thing for me and now you've shifted and I hate you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's crazy.
Like,
It's like, it's people putting people on pedestals. And it's like at the end of the day, we're all humans. And I mean, at that point in my life, was trying to figure it out. I was floundering. You know what I mean? There was a lot of truth to what I taught, but there was a lot of truth to what I taught, but I hadn't yet realized the repercussions of it because I hadn't experienced them for myself. You know, it's like, sure, do ayahuasca, sure, do some psilocybin ceremonies, go to a tantra temple, go do a vulva workshop, like, and then what could happen? Exactly. Like, sure, like worship Isis, worship Mary Mag, all these, what's that, Shiva, like all of it. And I used to have Christian clients, when I was just beginning, like teaching yoga and stuff, and they'd be like, I don't think I can do yoga. And I'd be like, what? Like, how? How? But then like now that I've sat with Christian elders, some of the poses are worshiping things that you don't want to worship or you don't know you're worshiping. And it's like, okay, well, is there truth to that? I don't know, but I got to a point in my life where I'd rather not do the poses than find out, I mean, that's just one little thing. Loads of Christians do yoga, but
well, there was a girl from my high school who was super Christian and then found yoga and she got trained in Christian yoga. Like they have specific Christian yoga and she was like a Christian yoga teacher and I made so much fun of her because I was like into yoga and I was like, this is so stupid. Why do you need Christian yoga? Blah, blah, blah.
yeah.
But I get it now. I mean, I think it's really hard. For me, my whole cult experience was the thing that like woke me up because I was baptized Greek Orthodox. Like that's my mom's side of the family is very Greek, and uh, I had gone to church as a little girl. Not so much the Greek church because it was further away, but we went to church. But then around like 8 or 9 or some like we just stopped going. And then I had my whole new age seek like I looked for it everywhere but where I was baptized in like everywhere else I looked. And then I think really it was going through the cult because right before my I left the cult, uh I had been teaching like, oh my God, like just such dark, like there is no good. I did this thing called taboo and it was like there is no good and evil, like it's all one and we should all like get off on all these dark things and it's all just like there is no good and bad, that's just human whatever. And then when I had my whole realization of the cult, it was like I was like, wait a minute, like this is evil. And then I didn't know what to do with that because all of a sudden I was like, this is what Christians mean. Because before I was like, oh, Christians are scared of this like devil coming to get them, and that's so stupid. And then I saw all of that and I was like, no, I very clearly know that there's right and there's wrong, and this is wrong and this is evil. And then I was like, oh my God, this is what evil can look like. It's not like a physical devil just like coming to scare you. It's like through everything. And then I think that was like what opened me up, but I still couldn't. I mean, I had to go through, for me, it was kind of like a 2-year tunnel, I feel like, of just dark night of like, but did you know that's a Christian term, dark night of the soul?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And New
Yeah.
Age has like co-opted it.
Yeah. It's like totally, it's in the Bible. Like,
But that's where I was in this place of like I felt spiritually nothing. That was the worst part
mm,
about the cult experience for me was like I felt like it corrupted my entire connection to anything spiritual because I just couldn't trust anything anymore. I was like, is all of this evil? Was any of it real? And I just felt so lost. Um, and it was really only in like I bought Bibles and then I didn't read them. I was like, I don't know. And then just a bunch of different things happened where finally I was like, okay, because I was waiting for the moment where I would believe and then I would start reading the Bible or praying. I was like, I have to decide to believe first. But actually, what I found was that I never made a decision. Like, I never was like, okay, now I believe in God. It was like, I was like, well, let me just see what the Bible says. Like, I finally was at this point, kind of similar to you, where I was just like, I didn't know what I was going to do. My health was just falling apart. I couldn't walk. I was just like, what do I do? And I was like, I'll see what the Bible says. So I started reading the Bible and I started praying, and I was just like, well, all I knew was like, this feels right. It
right.
feels good when I do it. And so I don't even know what it means. And I don't even know how I feel about the words that I'm reading, but I just know that doing this feels like very nice and right. And so then I kept doing it. And then all of a sudden it was like, I don't know, a couple months in, one day, it just sort of, I was like, oh, I believe in God now. And then everything like started changing because it was just like, all these things, and I'd love to hear about your experience with this, where it just felt like a lot of things that I had been able to welcome into my life without thinking, like certain language or like songs or even porn, not a big part of my life, but like still something I was like okay with. Like these things, all of a sudden I was just like, it was like I just totally everything shifted and I was like, what? This is all bad. I hate this. And like it feels wrong. This is evil too.
Yeah. I couldn't listen to normal music anymore. I barely can listen to anything other than worship or Christian music. Like it's like once you like I that when I was in the new age and one of my many mentors would be like, we're all one. It's all one. Like it's, it's not good, it's not evil, we're all the same. And I was just like, no, like I'm not the same as Bill Gates. Like I'm not the same as like, because we can see all these things happening. So that was kind of a questioning point for me too, where I was like, I just don't think that we're all the same and we're all one. And so, but coming back to, yeah, like when you open your eyes to the evil and that there is this spiritual war going on the planet, yeah, things like porn or bars or alcohol, and I've been sober for many years, but you just see like the manipulation in it and like the darkness and the ickiness. And so music, even that, like sometimes I'll listen to normal music like when it's on in the store or wherever, and you hear the lyrics and you're like, oh my gosh, like, and that's like infiltrating into our brains all the time. And it's like all this programming and brainwashing, and it's like, where the frick are we? Like it's like, holy crap, there's some stuff going on here. So I think once you like get a taste, just like you said, of something where it's like, this feels good. Like when I was sick, I was like, I would go to church and I would leave, and that's all I could look forward to was the next Sunday when I could go to church again. And um, it just felt so good and so right and stable,
Yeah.
and I think as a single woman going through a very tumultuous, chaotic time, you want stability, or that's what I needed and that's what I wanted. And church and God and prayer and all of it has always felt like stable and like foundational, not boundless and go with the flow. Like there's no go with the flow. I mean, you are because you're fully surrendering and submitting to God, but it's not like just let's just see where this goes. It's like, no, I'm contained and held by you, God.
It's very interesting. It makes me think actually of like my relationship with Jordan compared to like a like trauma bond or some, like uh when I met Jordan, everything has just been always so loving and calm and stable and like peaceful. And uh I remember thinking at one point in my life like that would be so boring or like who would want it's not cool. But then when you actually have that experience of it, like that's so different than a lot of these like hot and heavy or like dramatic big uh kinds of flings that people have. And um yeah, I hear some of that in what you're saying with Christianity, where I feel that as well. There's like a just a deep sense of calm and peace. We haven't found a church here. I mean, we're moving anyway, but we went a few times to some churches here. I've also had a problem with it. Some of the churches here are very woke. I don't know if you're having that, if you've seen that.
Oh, on the coast, there are many churches that are very woke, but the one that I Googled and went to
Is
was
not.
is known. The
Okay.
conservative leader was in the church a couple weeks ago. There's nothing woke about my church, but I do know that that's a
Yeah,
thing.
they have like the big pride flags and they're just like, we're like, and I'm like, that's not a church. Like, I don't want to go there. And
No.
then, yeah, there's a Catholic church here that we went to a number of times, and we ended up stopping going. I don't really like the priest that much. I mean, he was nice, but I don't know. It was weird. It's very different. Like what I found myself craving was the Greek church, and we actually went on Christmas. It was so beautiful because at the Greek church, it's like they chant the whole time in Greek, and they're like singing the prayers, and uh, there's like the scent, like the incense and the sound. It's like it's so beautiful and sensual. And so here it's like not beautiful, and the priest is like talking about Jordan Peterson, which I agree with politically, but it was weird to like have that in church. Like it was just sort of I was like, what are we doing? This is I don't know. It's all weird. So, um but even going here, I still felt that like sense of like it just feels right to be here at the
Yeah.
same time. And I never felt that in any sort of new age thing that I did. I had like highs, like spiritual highs or like times where I thought I felt very good, but there was not the same kind of depth and peace and calm.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I would agree. Like I would felt many times like that I had found my home, like in Avalon and England and all this stuff, but it was always mystical and beyond this earth. It was always like you had to do like some breathwork journey to get there, or you had to do something to get there that was, I'm going to use some new age terms here, but that was like really beyond the 3D, you know?
Yeah.
And and so it was always escapism essentially. And Doreen Virtue put it really well with Avalon. It's a fantasy world. And and when I get peace and all of it, it's right here. Like it's like right here on this earth, boots on the ground. I haven't done a breathwork session. I haven't done anything to get there. I'm just right here with God. And like, what a beautiful thing to just actually be right here. as opposed to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, like the next healing journey, whatever it might be. It was always trying to get somewhere else in the new age for me, as opposed to like just meeting something, God, right here in this moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a big and I've been trying to explain to people too that like it wasn't a convincing myself of the like it wasn't like I was like, "Oh, I shouldn't like this music now because it's not godly." Or like there was no sort of doctrine that was like you can't like these. It was just all of a sudden like I was just seeing through a different lens. Like it was just like I was like, "Whoa." And it was that way for me with nature, where it was like all of a sudden it just sort of like I saw that I was like, God made nature.
Right.
And then it just felt so silly because it felt like uh I was like, I've been out here like like praying to the eagles and like calling like talking like asking all the like the moon for things and it was so funny to kind of like see myself from a new vantage point doing that and kind of being like, oh my gosh, like I was so lost looking for something, but it was all I guess I almost imagined that like finding God would mean that that connection to nature was taken away. And that wasn't at all the case. It was just like, wow, this is so beautiful and God made it. This is
Right.
all, God made all of this.
Yeah. And it's in the Bible that we're here to be stewards of the land. Like it's not, that we're supposed to be in relationship with the earth, but that we're not worshiping the earth or putting the earth above God. Like it's like nothing else can sit on your altar other than
Yeah,
God.
I think New Age people have said kind of the opposite, where they've said like, uh, thinking that humans are here to take care, like nature is ours to take care of, puts humans above nature, and that's wrong, is, such that like ecological viewpoint. But it's like, that feels false also. It's like, I think we are here to take care of nature. That feels very true.
Yeah. Yeah. And how did your audience receive it when you came out as
Everybody has been so positive. It's been weird. Like, I mean, I've been off Instagram now for like a year, so I haven't been uh I've only had like I started a Substack a few months ago, um, and my podcast, like this new podcast, but so I've only really had the people who have stayed around like on my email list, really. And then I think a bunch of them left because I hadn't said anything. I kind of went dark. Like I went off screens. This was really when everything started changing for me was last year, at like a year ago, around this time in April. I was like, I just felt this deep calling to go off of all screens. Like I was just like, something I need to hear something and it feels like everything is too loud. And I went for 2 whole months without my phone, without my computer. It was the best thing ever. No one could even text me.
oh my gosh.
Like, it was like, oh my gosh, it was the best. It was like, no one could get a hold of me besides like my in person friends who would have to call our landline
Hmm.
and hope that I would like see it because I don't even have that on ringing. It's on silent. So, like, it was just like, it was so great. And so it was beautiful too, because like some of my family members, I have a little 5-year-old niece across the country, and uh, I was like, oh, I'm gonna be sad not seeing like videos of her. And so I started writing letters. I was like, told my sister, like, we can write letters back and forth. And so we're still doing that, which is so fun.
That's
But so I took 2 months off, and in that 2 months, that was when a lot of stuff started to happen. And I don't even know in what order it happened. It all just started to like shift. Um, and then did you watch? have you watched the what's it called? The Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders series on Netflix? This is so
No,
embarrassing.
no.
I don't watch things ever, but I watched this series. It's a great series, actually. I recommend it. It was really enjoyable. A lot of them are very Christian, but there's this one girl in particular. Her name is Reese, and she's just like total. She must be very evangelical, was raised that way. She's just like praising Jesus the whole time, and every time she talks to the camera person she's like, this is all for Jesus, like this is just Jesus shining through me. She's very talented, and she ends up like making the team, and she's like one of the top people. And they show her boyfriend, who I think then becomes her, I don't know if they get married on the show, but they get engaged. They're both they must be like 2019,
Hmm.
and they're just adorable, and she seems so genuine, and I could not, like, this was kind of the final straw for me where I was like, she seems so, I was like, I kept saying to Jordan, like, do you think does she really believe it? Like, I couldn't understand. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna read the Bible. That was like the final turning point for me where I was like, let me just see what this is all about. Why did I start going down this road? Did you ask me something?
Well, we started with how your audience received or your
Oh yeah, yeah. So
Mhm.
because of that, I've been largely offline, and then I didn't even come back. Like, I went off screens for 2 months, and then I kind of came back on screens, but not on social media. And then it wasn't until around after the election, because I voted for Trump. I'm American.
Yeah.
And I wrote a piece in November, early November after the election, and I was like, I voted for Trump, and I kind of wrote about, because in 2016 when he first won, I was extremely liberal, and I cried my eyes out when he won. It was like the end of the world. And so it was funny to me to like be on the flip side of that. And so I wrote this piece. Anyway, all of that to say, I a lot of people left then in November, which was also crazy because no one sent me anything mean then either.
They just left because you
I got like a bunch of unsubscribes, more than I ever had, and they didn't even read my piece. They just left. And then ever since then, I've had this big trickle of people unsubscribing because I started my new podcast. And so, like, it's in December, I started the Substack. In January, I started the podcast. And the podcast, I don't know if you've seen, has just been like every controversial topic that there is. So each email I send out is like, it's like, let's talk about abortion and porn and Islam and like climate change and all this stuff. And I think
yeah.
people
Yeah.
are just like, what is happening there? But no, to answer your question, no one has said anything mean. I've been shocked. I received a lot of support, actually. Like in my Substack pieces I wrote about finding God, I was so nervous. I was like, I'm going to tell people. My first piece was called I guess it's time to tell you I love Jesus now, was the first. I wrote a series of three. People, I was like, I cannot tell people this. This is so, like, they're gonna just think, like, oh, she's in another cult, or like, oh, she just is so dumb. And I got so many comments of people being so nice, and I got even more emails back to me of people like sharing. And I saw a lot of people I had no idea who I had known through New Age had also found God. Like, there have been so many people in the same time frame, and in very similar ways, where it's like no one's telling them or like converting them into it. They're just like all of a sudden receiving, like, I think I'm being called to read the Bible. Like, I think I like, they're just like feeling it.
Yeah. Jesus isn't gentle, I don't think, in his pursuit. Like, I feel like he's always pursuing us, or any non-believers, but then it's like something shifts in us where our eyes are open to it or our ears are open to it, and like just some sort of nudge happens. And it's like I wasn't searching for something else. I was quite happy doing my life coaching and spiritual mentorship and teaching yoga. Like I thought that was the rest of my life, to be honest, and then all of a sudden something just changed. And you're like, oh, you know, Jesus is pursuing me.
So you lost people when you came out. Did you come out? Did you just say like, "Hey everyone, I'm Christian now," or did you kind of like just start? I started sneaking in the word God a little bit for a
Yeah.
while.
Like I would, because I was really sick for 6 months. So, and the phone made everything 100 times worse. I did stick with the podcast. I was able to continue with the podcast. And my guests, without my knowing, would all of a sudden be like Christian. And I'd be like, oh, like I never would have thought that person was Christian. And so the podcast very slowly, like listeners would be like, is something changing, you know? And I would repost old posts on social media, but take out the word goddess and put God or, like I look at my old posts now and I'm like, who the frick was she? Like, who was she? Because that is not me anymore. So it was very slow and I pretty much was off social media when I was not well because I used to share everything on social media, so vulnerable, put it all out there, and I just like no. Ever since returning to Jesus, I'm like, no, like that's for me and God. It's not for the world. So I really stopped sharing. I don't do life coaching anymore at all. And so I just didn't want to share anything, you know?
Yeah, I
So it
get
was
it.
subtle. Yeah. Now, I mean, like underneath my name, it says Daughter of the King. I think that came out like probably a year and a half after I'd returned to church. Like I was very slow with,
Yeah.
but yeah, continually losing followers. And then the other day, I think I put like, oh, so who's everybody voting for? Because it's a huge election, just like it was for the States, for Canada. Um, and then I put, I'm voting conservative. Well,
Everyone,
plus.
which is crazy because Canada is in a bad spot. Like I can't
Oh,
even believe that they would vote to like keep it going.
no, like, yeah. And some people vote, like in my thing or whatever, were like liberal. And it's like, do you guys realize the state that our country's in? But they're blaming Trump, even though Trump's only been in office for like what, 2 months?
Oh man.
But it's like, but that's what the media does. It's like, we're going to divert it so that Trump is the bad guy. Trump's ruining Canada. It's like, no, this ship has been sinking
Mhm.
for 10 years or however long the liberal government's. Like, it's so mess. But I don't even like, people are just so brainwashed. And I think that's like what has been coming more and more to the light through COVID and then also through this walk with Jesus is just how enslaved we are. I thought we lived in a world where cults didn't happen anymore or black magic didn't happen or, none of that. Like, no, that was like back in the old days, but no, it all happens right now. And just this, I'm going to close this curtain because the sun's going to blare in on you. Um, and so it's all just like coming to the light just with the indoctrination of our kids in schools and the like state that's been in power for so long and everybody's mad at Trump, but it's like Trump's doing what he needs to do for his country. And here in Canada, we need a leader that will do what he needs to do for us, not throw us under the bus. Like Trudeau said in his resigning or one of his speeches, no, his speech about Trump bringing in the tariffs, make it make sense. And I was like, I was so mad. I was so mad because through COVID, we were all like, make it make sense when he's like making us do all this stupid, crazy stuff. And it's like, you just threw that in our face. Like, like, yeah, anyway, Canada is in a mess.
Yeah.
And I pray that what happened in the States happens here.
Yeah. It's really crazy. It's funny because since we're moving, like in the last couple of months we've been selling our stuff and just like getting rid of things, and as we do that we've met a ton of people because we've been selling things locally, and so people will come by and they're always like, "Oh, you're moving. Where are you going?" And we say to the States, and they're everybody like 99% of people have the same reaction, which blows my mind every time, where they'll be like, "Oh, what a time to be moving there," or like, and they assume that we're on the same side, like they assume that we think the same way. It makes me so crazy because it's just like, and I've started, like I say, depend for the most part, I'm like, "Oh, I'm excited." Like I just tell them that I'm excited and I'm happy, and they're just like they don't know what to do then. But it's just so wild because it's like every single, and no, not one person has been like, "Oh, nice." Until finally Jordan met a guy the other day who came by and picked up something, and it was the first time he said, "We're going to the States," and the guy was like, "Oh, nice. I hate it here." It's like he was like, "I wish I could go to the States," and Jordan was like, "Really? No one
Yeah.
has said that to us yet."
So
Uh
crazy.
because I think the people who are more conservative minded are the people who just don't say anything one way or another. They're not like, "Oh, nice," but they're just like, "Oh, cool." They don't say like,
Yeah.
"Oh."
Yeah. BC is a pretty liberal province. If you were in Alberta, I think
Yeah,
people
it'd be
would be like,
different.
you guys go. Like, that's amazing. But because I work in a little store just a couple days a week on the coast, and it's shocking how many Americans come in and say that they fled America and, or, yeah, that they were thinking of moving and then the election happened and it was like, yep, time to get out of there. And it's like, well, you just hopped onto a sinking ship,
Yeah.
you know? Like, yeah, I want to be like, do you want to trade me spots? But
It's really crazy. Well, that's why I guess I've been surprised that you've been able to find like the whole community that you have where you are within the church. Because do
yeah.
you hang out with those people outside of church, or like what kind of community have you found?
Yeah, no, we do. It's a small church. I think it's like 100 people. There's two services now. But there is most of the church is unvaccinated and conservative. And I don't, it's, there's a big community of it here. And maybe it's exactly what you said. Maybe it is that the conservatives are more quiet and don't voice their opinion, and the liberals just want to let you know that they aren't buying American right now. And, all the things.
Wait, I
But
just have to say, because you just remind me. I saw some guys post on the we have for the island here. There's like a website, and people can write things. And I saw a guy wrote a whole post the other day about how he's not buying any U.S. Groceries anymore. And he wrote like uh he posted like oranges from Egypt, and he was like, "Thanks to the grocery store for like bringing in oranges from Egypt, because like I'd much rather," like he was just like, I'm not buying anything from the United States anymore." And I was like, "Do you think that the policies in Egypt are better than the policies in the United States?" Like I wanted to write back and just be like, "Do you want to go live in Egypt?" Like I'm confused. It was just like anywhere besides the US, and I was just like, I don't know if you know what you're supporting.
that's just it. They've just jumped on a train of everybody be mad at the States. And I had a woman come into the store. She was at the till, and I was like, "Oh, have you used this product before?" Just making conversation. Then she was like, "No." She's like, "Oh, where's it from?" And I was like, "Oh, it's from LA. Oh, I can't buy it." And so she didn't buy it. She left. But I was like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, so you don't want to support the States, but actually, you've just hurt a small business that's owned by a Canadian woman, because everybody's all about woman owned right now. You haven't, because she owns that product. She's already bought that product from the States. So the only person that's out of pocket right now is the Canadian. that
Well,
owns a
I
small
mean,
business.
what if the person who owns that company in LA is Democrat? She probably is in LA.
Yeah, in LA. Yeah, it's so true. Like, but it's like such a distraction because
It's
everybody
so
can jump on that bandwagon and not pay attention to what's happening in their own country.
and it's doing nothing anyway. Like
It's
what? No
not,
one's gonna notice that these
I don't
people
think
are
Trump
not
will
buying there.
care. Like, it's so mind-boggling.
And do you just? I guess you don't say anything, right? Working at the store, you probably just.
No, I just say, Okay." Or people will come in and they'll be like, "Are we still buying American?" And I'm like, "I am." Like, because it's stupid. Like, who has time? You know what I mean? Like, who has time when you're on a sinking ship and have to pay taxes, like unbelievable amount of
Oh
taxes, and the cost of living is like, you can't walk out the grocery store without spending $50.
no, it's really nuts too, because it like Canada. I also just real like Canada places very high tariffs on the United States already,
Yeah.
and so I don't think anybody even knows that. I didn't know that until I saw the other day. It was like U.S. yogurt is already priced like at 243% or something of its in Canada, and uh, and yeah, it was just like people are saying Canada's already been doing this. This is why they're doing it back. But I don't know. I just think like I just know all of these people are so liberal, and Jordan and I every day now it feels like we're just like get me out of here. Like we see another person who's just being weird or just like I'm just like I don't want to be. We're like in such a liberal place.
You
Even
guys
more
are
than you, I
a
think.
real place.
Like
Yeah. Yeah. It's so I'd like that's what I was thinking. I was like, I wonder what kind of churches would even be there.
there's not yeah, there's a few that are more there's like an Anglican one. Uh there's a couple like non-denominational one. There's like a United Church. Um but the only like and then like the other ones, the churches that are here, even I believe like the Anglican one, they all are very pride flagged. They're very like we're an inclusive woke church and I'm like I don't want to go anywhere near that. And then the only normal church is the Catholic Church. Um which is extremely not woke, but also just doesn't really feel it's there was barely anybody attending, first of all. But also like I don't know. I've never been Catholic, so I don't know if this is a normal part of mass. I can't imagine that it is. But I just felt that the priest was very non-priest like. Like he was like telling stories from his life about like skinning a lamb and how that compared to something in the Bible. And then he like printed out these Jordan Peterson quotes and he like brought them in and was talking about Jordan Peterson. And I don't know how other churches do things. Like I'm like I don't know, but I know that when I go to the Greek church, it's very traditional and it's extremely like we're only singing prayers and like reading a part of the Bible and like it's not for the priest to like go off on a tangent.
Yeah.
I don't know how it is elsewhere. I did go to, I went, I think it was maybe the Anglican church. I went somewhere else. And right at the beginning, when I first started reading the Bible, I thought maybe I'll just go and try out some of the churches. And I went to the one, and it just felt so sanitized to me. And I don't know if this is also just like a like newer architecture thing too, because BC was colonized later. I don't know, but like I feel like they don't make things beautiful anymore. I'm like, where's like the beauty? Even on Vancouver Island, we went when we went to the Greek church. At least it was pretty, and this there were like icons everywhere. It was just beautiful and colorful. In Toronto, actually, we went back in September. We went to Toronto for like a business thing, but they have the first Greek Orthodox church in all of Canada. And I went there, and that was stunning. and that was full. Like people were just like, it was full of people. And then there was a Catholic church that I popped in. It was right down the street. And when I got out of service, I went and popped my head in there because they were just starting a service. And that was a cathedral. And I was like, wow. And I feel like I don't know if I'll get that lucky, but I would love to attend church like that,
Yeah,
where
that
it's like
sounds nice.
beautiful.
Yeah. How does Greek Orthodox compare to Eastern Orthodox? Is it the same? Do you know?
I don't know.
I
I
don't know.
believe that it's the same. It's just what I want to say is that it's like I think Russian Orthodox, the service would mostly be done in Russian, or maybe I think some Orthodox churches just do it in English now, because I know a lot of the Greek churches will say as like a selling point on their site, like we do services in both Greek and English,
Okay.
which is what I personally crave because I love hearing the Greek. I don't know what it means. I don't understand Greek, but like it feels like home to me and I love hearing it. And they often repeat, like they'll say the Greek and then they'll say the English and then but I have been wondering about Orthodoxy because to me, uh, I think Catholicism is very beautiful, but like I feel more at home in Orthodoxy, and Catholicism came like it came from Orthodox. So I've been wondering why more people have not been going to Orthodox. But I think it's because of that, like I think it feels more out of reach, like it's not as common and it's kind of more like ethnic-y
Right.
to people. Because I don't think I would feel comfortable maybe going there if that had not been part of my like heritage.
Yeah. Like I think I searched for everything outside of church because of I think it's brainwashing, isn't it? Like there's just kind of like some sort of stigma around church, like you're a Bible thumper, you're uptight, you're kind of like goody two shoes
Yeah.
if you're a church person. And I grew up the complete opposite of that, you know? And
Where
so
did
there
you
was
grow
this,
up?
I grew up in high level Alberta, which is almost in the Northwest Territories, really far northern Alberta,
Okay.
in a small town surrounded by reservations.
Is it not quite conservative, like not quite religious there? Well, no.
No. Oh no, no.
Why not?
There were a couple churches, but what it is basically white people that are working in the oil field
Okay.
are up there. They pay you to live up there because it's so far north,
Okay.
and then it's tons of indigenous people that are on the reserve. So there's alcohol, drug problems. Like when the lights would come on at the bar, there'd be fights everywhere. Like it
Wow.
gets like minus 40, minus 50. Like it's pretty rough, very rough. And so yeah, church, there were a couple churches and I remember going to Sunday school once or twice, but that was for like the goody two shoes. And I feel like we've been conditioned to want to be like rebellious and badasses or, you know, that kind of thing. Um, which when I think about it, it's like that's Satan's playground. You know, everybody's drinking, everybody's having sex, everybody's doing all of these things that are just making you have a more painful life,
Yeah.
essentially. And so I kind of fought like not wanting to be part of that. And but then when it's like coming back to it, I don't know why the entry point's always been Christianity for me. Like I'd never even thought of like Orthodoxy or Catholicism because it was never part of my upbringing, you know?
That is Christianity.
Yes. Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
noticed this thing. I don't know why it is. Like I've had other people say that to me too. They say like they they differentiate. Like they call the more Protestant or evangelical stuff like Christianity, and then they say like Orthodox or Catholicism. And I'm like, but that's Christianity.
It is. But what I've heard is that it's very different. I've never gone to an Orthodox church. Different in the way that it's much more like ritualistic,
Yeah.
which is beautiful. I did,
It's
and this is
quite
all like,
mystical.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
this is all like through. other people in the church and stuff. I've never attended these, but that like with Orthodox, you can't just become like a member of the church. You have to go through like trainings and stuff, and I don't
I
know.
don't really know what you have to do. I've been wondering though because I'd like to get remarried in the church
Oh, that's
because we
beautiful.
got married like on our land here, and
Yeah.
I'm like, and we watched My Big Fat Greek Wedding. I don't know if you've ever seen it. We
Uh,
watched it the other night because my family, I've seen that movie dozens of times, but Jordan had never seen it, and we watched it. And in the movie, the guy he has to get baptized in the Greek church so that they can get married in the Greek church. And I was like, Jordan, would you get baptized? And he immediately was like, yes. I was like, you would? I was like, I didn't know if you would, but he actually had been like coming to God before me because we had made Christian friends through like a business thing, and the husband of this woman had sent Jordan a book. I think called Becoming a King. I don't know if
heard
you've heard.
through our mutual friend.
So he had sent Jordan this book, and Jordan was very like we were both in a place where I think Jordan even more than me. Jordan's always been like open to God. Jordan was raised very non-religious. He's actually Jewish in his heritage, but not raised Jewish. Um, but he was like really open to it, and then he loved this book, and I think it was just along the time we were both becoming more conservative as well, and he was just like, I think we like really share these conservative values, but
Yeah.
yeah, he was like, I'd get baptized, and I was like, ah,
That's so
okay.
cool.
But yeah, I actually don't know because I was just born into it. I'm not sure what all the rules are.
Yeah. That's what I've heard just of having guests on my podcast. And then I did hear that the Catholic Church, the Pope stated that it's inclusive.
Oh.
No.
Well, the thing is too, the Orthodox Church doesn't recognize the Catholic Church as valid
Oh, okay.
because there was the Great Schism in whatever year, maybe 15 something. I don't know if that's right. Uh where they had differing opinions on something, and then they split off, and then the Catholics like had the Pope because the Orthodox Church doesn't have one figure like that. Like they don't have a Pope.
Okay.
They have like I don't know what they have, different people, like a bunch of different, but there's no one person in charge like there is in Catholicism. But I know here because I and then I looked it up after, so I know it's right. When I went to the Catholic Church, I was like, if I wanted, like, could I take part in communion?
Mm.
And at the church, I was allowed to, but Jordan wasn't because he's never been baptized. But the priest said to me, "We recognize your sacraments, but you don't recognize ours." Because the Orthodox perspective, I think, is that the Catholics like are kind of like the badly behaved sibling that like went off and
Okay.
messed it up and are
Okay.
like doing it inauthentically. And so, but I've also heard that there's been talks like they want to unite, and I think it's actually very important nowadays because I think that there's definitely this like Christian resurgence that's happening, and I feel that all the Christians need to like come together.
Yeah. There's definitely like a revival of the church right now, like a stirring, something's happening, which
Yeah.
is so cool.
And I think people think it's the opposite. Like because it's been, I think, declining, like religion, like church and society, but uh I've seen a ton of it coming back. Like there's so many people.
Yeah. I remember like seeing old mentors and stuff be like, oh, another one just like bit the dust, new age and went to Christianity. And then Doreen Virtue, and I'd be like, oh, like after Doreen Virtue, I'd be like, oh, another one, Doreen Virtued it. Then I was like, oh, I Doreen Virtue. But you were like, I've been seeing it happen, and now it's quite common. Like I think Joe Rogan's Christian now.
Is he? I haven't heard him say it, but he did have that Christian. Did you listen to the episode with the Christian apologist on?
Wes
Yeah,
Huff.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I did. I listened to him. And then Sean Ryan is Christian now.
I don't know who that is.
He's another podcaster. He's like good friends with Joe Rogan.
Okay.
But he's had like Lee Strobel on, who wrote The Case for Christ,
Okay.
which is such a great uh, movie,
Okay.
The Case for Christ, because there's more evidence for the resurrection than there is for like any other historical document. Like it's crazy how much evidence there is.
Yeah.
And so
Is the Case for Christ like a documentary type movie? Yeah.
yeah, so he wrote the book. It's a true story. His wife became Christian, and so he set out to disprove Christianity to get his wife
Ah,
back. And with it, he couldn't disprove it. He was a journalist for the Chicago Tribune.
cool.
He couldn't disprove it and became Christian. And so there's more of like a Hollywood movie telling the story of the book, and then there's more of a documentary too. But he's been on Sean Ryan's. I actually reached out to him to be on my podcast, but I'm on like a wait list or whatever. Um, but Joe Rogan, I haven't heard that he's come out and said it, but Jordan Peterson outed him
Did he?
accidentally.
I don't.
And
Is
yeah,
I haven't heard Jordan Peterson say for sure that he is Christian.
yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty sure he speaks a lot about the Bible.
He's talked a lot about the Bible, but I've seen people say like he hasn't yet fully like welcomed it in. He's kind of
Okay.
like researching it, but like I don't know. I mean, I don't know anything about him personally.
Yeah.
Um, but I've wondered. It seems like Joe Rogan is coming around. Like he,
Yeah. Like Joe Rogan had said that he would never have Trump on his podcast because he would never give him his platform.
yeah,
And it's like so much is shifting for people because we're just seeing more and more of it. And I mean, it's not that it all goes together, but you do kind of see that like people support Trump, they're usually more on the unvaccinated side,
yeah,
more on the godly side, and
yeah.
then the other side is,
I've also seen people say that like that Trump has become more Christian since his assassination attempt.
oh
Like
wow.
that, I guess he was already Christian, in theory or in a political way, it seems. But then when he was almost killed, I've seen people say like close to him, been like, I think something really shifted in him then because there's been this like, and you see it actually. I don't know how much closely you've kept tabs, but like it's really beautiful actually the way they've brought God back into government. Like they've said it a lot more now. They've like Trump will say things like this is the way God created you. And JD Vance is very Christian. Um and he also had his own sort of journey where he like grew up Christian and then went away from it and then like came back.
What's your take on like Elon Musk and everything?
I really like Elon at like in the sense of his what he's doing in the government. Like I think that I'm really glad Elon is in there. I think that he has really good intentions. I don't think that like through like I read his biography early last year, which really helped me understand more about him and like his perspective. I I mean like I wouldn't recommend dating Elon, or, or like I don't think that he's always a good-hearted person in every interaction. I think it,
Right.
it seems actually like he gets these women pregnant and then he kind of treats them like shit. Like he's never had healthy relationships in his life.
Mm,
Um like he grew up that way and just like I think he's never healed.
right.
But I do believe that I think he's honest. I think he's funny. I appreciate that he uh I appreciate a lot of the joke. Like he takes everything lightly at the same time. Like all the heavy stuff he's doing, like he'll make funny jokes, and I think it's funny. I think people get freaked out. They're like, "Oh, how could Elon say this thing?" And I'm like, "He's just having fun." Like I appreciate that he's having fun. So yeah, I think like I don't think all of his values are what we should be holding to the highest
Right.
standard, but I also think that's not his role either.
That's true.
And I
Yeah.
don't know what I think about like the multiplanetary thing.
Like us moving to Mars?
Yeah, like in the sense of God, like is that all God too? Because some I've heard some people say, have you ever do you watch Candace Owens ever?
Yeah, I have watched her. Yeah.
Have I disagree with some of the things that Candace Owens thinks about certain things, but mainly her take on Palestine. But I really like Candace Owens at the same time, and I believe she's very deeply religious. But I've heard her say she thinks Elon and these AI guys are very like transhumanist. Like they're just like she doesn't trust it. I'm not sure that I feel that way. I wonder sometimes if uh like if it can all be God.
Right.
Cuz like I've used Chat GPT
I
uh
use ChatGPT. Yeah.
to talk about God.
Interesting.
Like I'll be like cuz I don't really know that much about the Bible or like cuz I'm like I feel very new.
Yeah.
I feel like I deeply believe, but I also feel like a baby. Like I'm just like I don't really know anything. Like I didn't grow up like being told all the stories. Like I haven't read the whole Bible. I don't. So sometimes I'll be like this thing I'm thinking about. Can you tell me like passages from the Bible? Like, what might the Bible say about this? Or and it'll pull like all these different Bible quotes and different stuff and it'll be like uh here's what relates to this or whatever and it just like and if you tell it I have the paid version so I think it's different. It's definitely different in quality depending on if you have the paid one or not, but uh I'll also say for people that I don't really like that I use Chat GPT because I don't know that Sam Altman is a good person. Like who owns it.
Okay. It is woke. ChatGPT is woke.
It is well, yes, but you can make it not woke. Like,
Okay.
tell it that you hate it being woke, and it'll stop being woke. So you kind of have to know how to uh, it's stopped saying woke things to me entirely now. And I'm not sure why, if it's just learned me, but there's been a lot of times where like if it gives an answer that's like a little too woke, I'm like, say this in a non-woke way, or like, I don't like this. And lately, like if you tell it, because it will remember everything you've said, and so now mine knows that like I believe in God, and so sometimes, even if I'm talking about something non-God related, it will still bring God in. It'll be like and sometimes it'll be like if I'm like, "Oh, I'm like trying to figure out this thing or whatever." It'll be like, "I can give you a prayer for that." And it will like give me like a sort of prayer of like what I could say to God, like how I could word something. So you have to play with it and kind of see, but I have found it to be very adapted to what I think. And so yeah, I would say to anyone, I think there's like a bit of a learning curve, certainly with learning how to like program it, but also you have to also be able to distinguish when something like it's not always right, even though
Right.
it's AI. Like you still have to sometimes wonder like, okay, it's saying this, but like where is it getting that from?
Yeah. Yeah. But I get that like with I listened to a podcast episode with Elon. It was a long time ago. I think it was during COVID and he was on Joe Rogan and he was just kind of like, why would anybody spend any time on nature? Like that's stupid kind of thing. I think he's like become a little bit more God, like believing in, I don't know. I don't know, but it's like technocratic, like everything's technology.
I've heard Elon say about God that he thinks that believing in God is good for society, but that he is such a physicist that he only can like think about things in terms of physics and like can we prove it?
Yeah.
I don't think he's gonna be like a Christian hero anytime soon.
It'll be like interesting just to see how it all plays out.
But I do wonder about the like multiplanetary and like technology thing because I'm like, can it all be God or is it kind of like a neutral thing that can be used by Satan or by God? Like, can it be?
Yeah. What was, I guess I'm like trying to remember if somebody told me something about like how we know if it's of God or not. I guess everything can be used for the good, but it can also be like manipulated and inverted. Just there might be good intentions in the beginning and then somebody hijacks it kind of thing. And it's like AI. I mean, what would be the good of AI? That like I use ChatGPT to write emails and I'm like for my newsletter and I'm like, but I used to write them myself. And that was more creative for me
Yeah.
to write them myself. But now I don't feel like I have time. No, I don't know.
I definitely have a line of like I would not use it to write something for me in my voice that I
Wait.
cuz I feel like for me personally I can tell it's it. Like I'm just like I like to use it um I'll use it as like a research partner.
Yeah.
Like I'll be like or I might even be uh like I something I've been doing too is I'll be like, I just recorded a podcast. We talked about like all these things. Can you just like write me a description? Because I hate writing that description more than anything in
Hate.
the world. So I'll just
Right.
like talk
Yeah.
out loud and I'll be like, here are all the things we said. Can you just like write it into a paragraph? And
Yeah.
then I'll even look at the paragraph and I'll like adjust it so it's a bit more my voice. Um, so I'll use it for things that like I feel like don't matter if they have soul in them, but I
Yeah.
feel like it misses something. Like I see pieces on Substack sometimes it makes me angry that I can tell are written by AI. And they'll be like people like trying to be like this is my and I'm like I can feel it because when someone you there's a difference. And so I
Yeah.
feel very possessive as a writer over like I would never write my stuff in AI. If I'm struggling with like a sentence or a way to say something, I might be like, hey, I'm like trying to figure out ways to say this, or like, can you, and maybe it'll give me different options, and then I'm like combining them together. So I use it sometimes to like help me
Yeah.
the way I would with like a person.
Yeah.
But I think there's like a weird, uh, yeah, it's interesting. It is kind of the same with everything, right? It's like you hope that everybody has the same line, but they don't.
Yeah. And I think about like our kids. Well, mine's 24. And so she's kind of grown up without ChatGPT, but she's grown up with the internet and her phone and all of that kind of stuff and is always on it. And then it's like the next generation is growing up with like AI and there's already all these problems around them and phones and social media and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, I wonder like how these generations will cope, where it's like where I see like what would be most beneficial for where the world, in my view, should go is less technology in a lot of ways, like more being outside and in nature and like in God's playground. But it's like these technological advances, it's like more and more screen time, which you can see like kids, almost all of them there's a little bit of like neurodiversity and all that kind of stuff, like
Yeah.
anxiety and yeah, so it's just kind of I don't know. I guess you just have to trust that it's all in God's plan.
Yeah, I mean, we won't know, right? I mean, I Jordan and I say often like we're alive in such an exciting time because it's just like what is gonna happen? We could see such crazy things happen over the next like 20 years
Yeah.
that it's
Did
just
you
like
read the book of Revelations?
no.
No, I haven't either. But it's like it's the last book in the Bible. And it's like it says basically what's happening right now.
In what way? What does it say?
Um well, it talks, it uses different language, but it talks to like genders being
Oh,
blurred. Um Speaks to the mark of the beast, that will all be marked, which some say that could be the vaccination or QR codes coming in, or like this, the potential of the one world government. It talks about all that kind of stuff. And then Jesus returns.
oh, okay. Well, hopefully we'll be alive for that too. Maybe it'll all happen at once. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure. I think I do wonder sometimes too, and I guess this could be applied to technology. Like something I was talking about on a recent episode with someone was we were talking a lot about like the sexual liberation world and porn and polyamory and all this dark stuff. And we talked a lot about kink. Like she used to be a kink coach and like the BDSM world. And we were kind of talking through it and we were sort of debating whether there was any use because sometimes people will say like I used kink to heal this thing or whatever.
Right.
And we were kind of like is there any use? And I was like I've started to think that there is no use because it seems that any little bit leads you like it just opens you up to that darkness and then more and more and more comes in. But and so I guess you could apply that to technology as well with like humanity. And
We
maybe that's happening. I don't know.
Like, you think about the sexual revolution. I think a lot about this because I've lived a very sinful life and I always had such issues with saying I was a sinner. And then it's like that was another thing. I didn't want to say that I was a sinner,
Yeah.
and I did not want to say that I needed a savior.
Mm-hmm.
And there was another S word, I can't remember what it was, so but it was all like S words that I was like, nope, like I'm not a sinner. We're not born sinners.
Yeah.
And it's like, which is like, we're sinners and we need to pray for forgiveness. And Jesus died for our sins on the cross. And it's like, but I can't imagine, well, I see it in the church where there are couples who waited till sex or waited till marriage before they had sex. And then they have children, and those children wait until they're married and then have sex. And it's like these like, and I've been in groups, like in soul care groups or whatever, and you have to share your whole life story basically, and what traumas you've endured. And I'll tell mine, and they're like, holy shit, and then this other woman that has grown up in that lineage of family, there's no trauma. And it's like these like casual sex, all these things, they are footholds where the enemy comes in.
Yeah.
And and it's like when you save yourself till marriage, or like don't have multiple partners and all that kind of stuff, like sex is a spiritual act 100%. Like, and I've gotten in so many arguments with men, like you can't tell me it's anything different, like no. But you're taking on that person's everything, and so it's like the sexual revolution, like it just set us up for failure
Yeah.
in so many ways, the feminist movement, like so many ways. And so I'm like, okay, that was part of why I didn't want to be Christian, or why I like stayed away from it, was like, well, I'm not gonna live this narrow path of, I mean, I've had sex before marriage, so can't go back to that. But like, all these different things that it speaks about, but they're all in like they are all for our own good, like to live like more I want to say pure life, but that's not the right word, but it's like it's in our favor to live a life that is a lot less challenging and tumultuous and hard.
Yeah.
Like having sex with multiple people, that is not easy on your body,
Yeah.
like as a woman, kind of thing. So, yeah. And then I often think, like, how do you convey that to young kids that are not all of them? I mean, there's plenty of young kids in my church that are conservative and living that life. Like their parents did that, they're doing that. But there are so many kids that are very liberal and woke and are all about this inclusivity. And you can be she and her and they and a cat all in the same day. And it's like, anyway.
I went to get to interview someone for like a bodywork appointment here, and I kid you not, on this website to like book the appointment, I didn't end up hiring this woman anyway, but it was like a clinic, and there was an option to select your pronouns. There had to be like 30 options. I
Oh
am
my,
not joking. I was like, Jordan, look at this. I was like scrolling through, and he was like, I was like reading them, and he's like, "You're kidding." And I was like, "No," because they were like, they don't even make sense. They're like, you can be a fairy, you can be fae, and fae femme or whatever. You can
oh
be
wow.
like xe, xem. All the like these words don't even make sense. There were like on a drop down bar. I had to scroll like 4 times. Like there were so many
Wow.
options, and I was just like, "This is fucking this." This
It's
is
crazy.
crazy. It's like this
It's
is just,
chaos.
I can't. But there are so many things I wanted to go into about what you were saying. Um, well, so one is like I do think that like a little bit like we don't realize how much just a little step off of the path can take us so far away. And I think a big issue is what I was surprised by when I read the Bible was that I didn't see shame. Like I had always thought that Christianity was full of shame, like shaming you. And I'd come across a lot of people that had like religious trauma in a sense. They were just like they grew up believing they were guilty and living in shame, and like they should kind of just drowning in shame. And I was like, when I started to read, I was like, God does not seem very shaming. He seems very like forgiving and loving. And
Yeah.
so I started to read these things, and I started with the Proverbs. And I'm reading the Proverbs, and I'm like these are really good guidelines for life. I'm like I wish I had followed these guidelines and
So true.
it
Proverbs was written, like, it's just so fascinating how it's like 66 books in one and all different authors. And I think Proverbs was written to sons, like on how to live their life, but it translates so much into women
it's just
as
really
well.
beautiful. And it was just I was like I agree with all of these values.
Yeah.
Like bring them back. And then uh I also so a big thing for me also was that same piece you mentioned of I that was the other thing really in my way was that I couldn't get to the point of like I believe that I need to be saved. Um and it actually someone who was Christian ended up pushing me further away cuz I was kind of like still quite open, but and then in 2 Januaries ago Jordan and I went on this like networking business trip. We were away, and we were there with this Christian couple who we were friends with that we know, and then there with we were all in the pool, and there was another Christian couple that we had just met, and which was a more rare thing for this group. Not everyone is all Christian, but uh the woman who we had been friends with had said to me, and she's always been super open, like, uh, really happy to talk to me about Christianity and like her journey and like curious about what I think, but never at all pushy.
Yeah.
And she said to me, so like, like last time we saw each other, it was almost like a year prior, and she was like, so like, how are you doing? Have you thought about it more? Like, where are you at? And I was like, I don't know, like, not really. Like I bought these Bibles, but I haven't read them, and I'm just sort of like, I'm not sure. And then this guy who I had just met, like, chimed in, and it was like his opportunity for this monologue. And it was like, it pushed me so much further away because it was like he jumped on me. It was like, oh, she's like a little bit open. And he was like, in this very like sober voice, he just went on this like 15-minute monologue about God and how like God is not looking for people like him who have already accepted God, but he's looking the most for people like me. Like he's like people like you who are like just a little open. And I was like, shut up, go away. And then it finally ended with like Jordan like got up and went to the bathroom and came back. This guy was still talking, and I was just like, ugh. And he ended with something um like we're all sinners, or like we're all broken and we need to be saved. And I was like, I guess that's just where I can't. And I was getting pretty pissed because he just went on forever. And I was like, I guess that's where I like can't quite get there because I don't believe that we're all broken and need to be saved.
Mhm.
And that sort of ended that, and then we didn't speak anymore the rest of the time there. but
Yeah.
but and I still think that that was too pushy and annoying and doesn't work, but I also have come around to that point where like that was something I held at the beginning when starting to read the Bible, was like, okay, this concept of mercy even makes me feel cringy. I don't like it, but why don't I like it? And I kind of started to just be like I would read the words in the Orthodox prayers. There's a lot of Lord of mercy, Lord of mercy, Lord of mercy. And uh I would kind of just like, I just sort of let myself like feel it. Like I was just like, I don't know, but I don't have to know. Let me just like see. And I started to contemplate like this word, and what I started to realize was like, there doesn't need to be shame inherent in this sinning, or in this idea of because just because I sin doesn't mean that I have to like hold on to this identity of like I'm this broken person who's bad and wrong. Um and actually like, and I think there's this, when you can come to the truth of those words, I think there's such a beauty actually in being able to like say that and feel that, like, oh, I have sinned and like please have mercy,
Mhm.
without going into this like shame spiral of badness.
Yeah. Yeah, because Jesus died for our sins. And so God loves us that much. Like, we don't need to, He doesn't want us to be shame ridden and, like, feel that's Satan's thing. Shame is Satan's thing. Like, we're not meant to carry that burden with us.
And isn't that so hard to understand? Like I think a lot of us, and I think a lot of churches too, like when there might be a priest or whoever, like they end up teaching shame.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
also what I didn't like so much about the church here, was I felt that the priest was super like shame oriented, and I was like, I feel like this isn't being quite honored in this way that I feel that it means, because I don't feel like it's meant to be loaded with shame. I feel like I can kind of, and I'm still working on this, like this in my relationship with God, feeling this like Like, can I ask for forgiveness and share all of this while not feeling like I'm bad or I did something wrong? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's such a big one. And I don't know where like the shame came into the church, but I think that's a lot why people steer away from it is like, I don't want to feel like I'm a horrible person because I've sinned and I've done all these wrong things. And it's like, that's not what the Bible says. Like, that is
yeah,
100% not what the Bible says. But then it's like humans get in and distort things, and I think that's like such a big thing is like you always have to come back to scripture and what the Bible says, and that's not God. That's the thing. It's like if it makes you feel bad, it's not God. Like
yeah.
it's never God. And because I like go through where I would hear like when I was in the new age world, for years, my intuition told me I was not in menopause and that my period would come back. And I'm like, okay, if I had not listened to my intuition so boldly, would have I gone to the doctor and gotten things sorted out and not had a mental breakdown? And so my intuition was wrong.
It brings that into question, doesn't it? Is intuition always like you and your intuition, or is it evil?
Yeah. Because in the new age world, it's like and especially as a woman, like your intuition, what's going on, what's best for you. And it's like, I didn't. I didn't. And that caused a lot of pain. That had I just realized that I don't have all the answers, it could have helped me out in the long run. And so I didn't know the voice of truth anymore and didn't trust my intuition. And then coming back to God, I'm like, is that the voice of God? Or is that, like, what is that? And it's like, yeah. And that was how it was like, if it feels good, it's God. If it doesn't feel good, it's not God. And shame never feels good, ever, ever. And I'm still working on like, how do I um, know when it's God or not when it comes to like, you know, am I in full blown menopause? Well, the doctors have told me I'm in full blown menopause. So now I know, but God works through doctors too. You know what I mean? The new
Yeah.
age was so like what did yeah, I had people because I was quite outspoken during COVID and not getting the vaccination, and people were like, I'm going to leave that up to the doctors. They know best. And it's like, well, that's not true. So it's like, like finding that fine line of like what's truth and what's, you know?
It resonates a lot with me because I feel like I must have told you when I was on your podcast, but I had bled for over a year. Like,
Yeah.
and now I think back, and I was in the cult like that most of that whole time. And I think back and I'm just like, in what world? Like, why did I not take any steps? Like, I even think I should have gone on birth control as a last resort. Like, even though I think that that's a terrible thing, like, I was bleeding every day for like 15 months. It tanked my iron. It, like, it was so bad. And now I think if I just had known or sought out anything, I think that if I had taken progesterone, maybe that would have stopped it. Like I think like even bioidentical progesterone, I think, but nobody suggested that. But when I think back to like my headspace or even how much weight I gained, I was like, this is the truth. I trust my body. My body must be doing this because it's right. And now I'm just like, and I know where I was, and I know I was like so deep in this cult mindset, but I was very like, I know the truth, and this is the truth. And like, if my body is bleeding, it must need to bleed for a good reason. And like
Yeah.
there's just like I mean I'm still like you. I'm very skeptical of doctors, but I'm also like there is a time and a place, and like I just can't believe when I look back on like some of the things that I was like, this is true. And I
Yeah.
think now what I found, because I still have that same question as you, like I don't feel like I always know what is what. But I think something that happened last summer that I keep reminding myself of is like it felt like when I would surrender more and trust God, things just started to like come into place. Like I would read a book or I would see a person, like things just started to happen where it felt like even if I hadn't felt at the time yet like I was really healing, but I felt like I was finally on the right path because things were like flowing again. And then what I notice is like the times where I get off track are where I try to go back to like me being in control again. Like moments where I'm like, well, maybe like I need to figure this out. Like I have to figure it out. I have to do more research and like do all these things and like figure, and it's like, no, I don't. And it's the hardest thing to do, I think, as a human. It's just like, it's like, I don't actually have to figure it out. I do have to like take my, do my part and like take my steps when it becomes clear what the next thing to do is. But I don't like I can feel this distinction between where I'm not trusting God and I'm like I have to figure out everything
Yeah.
versus when I'm like I'm trusting and I know what to do.
Yeah. Like you're following God's direction.
Yeah.
Yeah. I because I live on a 5 acre property, 5 acre piece of land. And I was searching for a land forever over here. And I had this vision, like when I was in the new age world, of exactly what like the property looked like. And there was like a bridge and a creek, but I'd never like wanted a bridge or a creek. And there were cedar trees. And at that point, like I'd never intended to move out to BC. Um, but anyway, so I was here and I was looking for this land and nothing was working. I'd fired a realtor and I was like, okay, God, like if you don't want me to live on land and have ducks and bees and whatever, like if it's not your will, that's fine. Like I give it fully over to you. I want what you want were the words I said. And then this property came, and it is the exact vision that I had. It's got a creek and a bridge and like old growth forest. But it wasn't until I said, like, God, I want what you want. And it's like that is the hardest thing because it's like we think we know what's best for us. It's like, but we don't.
Yeah.
We really don't. Like God's plan is always better. And I mean this property has not been a cakewalk. That not at all. But that's another thing is like I always thought in the new age world like it was just going to be love and light. I was going to be making thousands and thousands of dollars and I'd just be on like in a constant like honeymoon, like you see all the influencers on social media. That's not true. Like none of that is reality. But in the Bible, it says multiple times like it's not going to be easy,
Yeah.
but it'll be good.
Mhm.
It's like, yeah, life isn't, it's not easy,
Yeah.
but it'll be good.
I've grappled with that a lot because I don't know if you know I was really really sick uh last year. I mean, yeah, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder, and I for multiple points last year, like I couldn't walk at all, like I just couldn't function, and um, I I feel now like the last few months have taken a big like upturn. Like I feel like I'm like okay, I'm like on my way out. It's like it's finally happening. But there's been multiple points throughout this whole thing where I feel very grateful for it. Like I feel like I'm learning a lot that I would not have learned uh otherwise. And I really have felt that multiple times, that like I don't know, like it is God's will for me to have this because I have it, and to like go through this process. And that's a hard thing to surrender to, when it's
Yeah.
like, especially last year, when it's like I can't do anything, like I can't function. And especially kind of where I was last summer, last spring, was like I don't even see a way out. Like I don't even know what's going to happen to me. Early or last spring, I finally was like, okay, I'll take medication for a little, and then I like ended up going right off of it. But it and I actually had to go through that because it led me like to the next step. Like the medication gave me a kind of reprieve for like a month where I could like figure out what I was going to do, and it was like a whole thing. But but there were a lot of points last summer where I was coming to, and still like come to this place of like it's not supposed to be, like it doesn't mean that we're doing something wrong when things are a struggle. Like it's supposed to be that way. And to just really surrender and be like, this is okay. And ironically enough, I mean, of course, that's what ends up healing people.
Yeah.
Is that like, oh, I don't need to fix this. I'm not
Like letting go.
broken. Yeah, like I don't need to be
So
perfect.
true.
It's that perfection which causes at least autoimmune disorders, I think. Like that, like I need to be different. I need to be better. I need to be perfect. I need to be. And so it's like actually the letting go of all of that is what causes the healing, but it's like the hardest thing to do. I don't know if you've read have you heard of the book He Leadeth Me?
No.
Ah, you should get it. Uh,
Okay.
He Leadeth Me. This book I read, I must have read it last summer. So it was like around the time I've been reading the Bible and for a couple months, and then it like dawned on me, like I was so naive. I was like, people must have written things about Christianity. Like I was like, there must be books like about Christianity. Of course there's like probably millions of them. And so I like asked a friend for recommendations, and then I was like asking Chat GPT actually. I was like, I'm interested in this. Can you recommend me some books? Anyway, one book out of the lot of the books I read is that one. And it's about it's a it's like a memoir, not a memoir. I don't know what you would call it. A guy who wrote about his experience. Um and I want to say, what war was it? It must have been, so this guy, I want to say maybe he was Polish, and then he like snuck into Russia sometime in the mid 1900s. I hope I don't know if I'm getting the historical part of this wrong, but like he snuck into Russia. He was a priest, and he was like they invited him to be a priest. He always knew he was meant to go to Russia. So essentially, he went to Russia and pretended to be Russian, and then some war happened or something happened. He couldn't leave. They wouldn't let him leave. And then they put him in this like Russian concentration work camp where like because he had broken the law, which he didn't really, but they like said that he did. He then had to go to these camps. And so the whole book is like him telling the story of his life and how this happened. And it's so beautiful because you see all these moments where, like, his external circumstances are horrible. He's like in Russian prisons, and he's in Russian, like, working whatever, 14 hours, I guess more, 20 hours, whatever, a day, like physical labor. They don't want the priest, like in communist countries, they don't want religion at all. They don't want you to, and he ends up like, uh, leading, like even in these places, he ends up being the priest for people because what they're looking for in those camps is like some connection, like some spiritual practice. And so he ends up like uh being a priest, like acting as like they hold their meetings in secret, and like he gets in trouble and all this stuff. And the whole book you see him grapple with this like when he can surrender fully, things do start flowing. And when he's like trusting like this is God's will, like and you kind of have to get out of the way of like it's not really up to me what I'm being used for or like what it turns out as, right? Like it's so you just kind of see these moments where like he wants to take over and things are just like not working and then he lets God take over and like he might even end up in a worse circumstance, but like it's just sort of flowing. It's hard to explain. It's a beautiful book though, and it's cool that it's like it's true. I want to say he's like a I believe he's a Catholic priest.
I love that, like getting out of your own way, which is like giving it over to God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
Oh,
where I think there's so much overlap with new age stuff as well because uh there's like these new agey teachings of that surrendering
mm,
and they speak about it in very similar ways but it's missing that like
yeah,
peace and depth and
it's missing
like
something.
yeah
Even that like manifestation is in the Bible.
yeah
Like act as if it will, act as if it is, and it will be. I think it's like Mark
uh-huh
16:24, something like that. Don't quote me on scripture. But it is all about like manifestation, but it's just in new age, it's all you're the creator of
yeah
your reality. You are not the creator of your reality, like co-creator at best, like
yeah
yeah, it's all you're the god, you're the one, and you goddess, like you're a goddess. It's like no,
that's the real
I'm not a goddess.
no that's the messy part too yeah when they're like you're we're all God. I'm like
Yeah,
we're not all God.
no.
But I do think that I think these things get misconstrued because I think even like in Christian mysticism they've had these kind of experiences where they feel like everything is one in this sense of like they feel the unity. They feel God and they feel God in everything.
Yeah,
But that's not the same as we are all God.
no.
And
No, like God is within us because we're children of God. We're made in God's image, but we're not God. Like I'd make a terrible God.
I think like yeah, we have some power. Like we have, you know, we can take responsibility for things and we can show up and we can there's a like you said that kind of act as if there's also a story I was told recently by a guy I was working with. He said he told the story of Moses in the burning bush and he said there are many different ways this like phrasing can be interpreted, but he said something God like what God said to Moses. I guess he had sent Moses down to like go tell the people something. I don't know the story very well, but he said like and Moses was like, I don't want that. I'm scared to do that. I don't want to do that. And the bush, which I guess was God, was like, I think it said like, I am that I am. And spiritually, this guy who he's very like he's kind of more new agey, but he kind of interprets like he knows a lot of biblical quotes and stuff and kind of brings them all together. He was saying how like he was like I am is like the most powerful statement and like that in his interpretation and like in others interpretations it's like God is saying kind of like you are what you say you are and like if you say you are able to do this then like you are and how powerful that can be for us when we're like you know the way we talk to ourselves too like I am what
Yeah,
are you like
yeah,
I'm broken I'm wrong I'm sad I'm whatever or I'm strong, I'm loving, I'm like, how do we talk to ourselves? And it's like these things that it's just been really fascinating to me, that overlap where like I see a lot of new agey things that I feel like were kind of taken from the Bible and just like,
ran with.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like how, like how would you talk to yourself if you knew that you were the daughter of the king, like daughter of God? Like that's like, wow, like, woof, we're like the daughters of God. And it's like, that's who we are.
And how
And
hard that is to really let in.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's such a, it's like so exciting, but it's also like so daunting when we realize like just how powerful we are
And how
and that we're
loved.
filled loved and supported by like a God that loves us, you know?
Yeah. I'm curious, you were mentioning earlier about like the sexual liberation stuff. I'm wondering how you are thinking about that now in your life because are you single?
Mhm.
And like, how are you seeing that? Like, now you've gone through menopause, you're single, like, how are you seeing romantic relationships?
Yeah. Like there was this one man in my life and it got like kind of intimate quickly, but like no sex. And I went to one of like my mentors from the church and I'm like, I'm not waiting until I get married. Like, I don't even know if I would get married. I'm 45. Like, I can't have any more kids. Like whatever. I went into menopause really early. But it just happened. Her Bible was open to this page and it was all about like, things of the flesh. Basically, the scripture was alluding to like, you need to wait until you're married
Yeah.
before having sex. And it's like, yeah, that's daunting because there are a lot of men in the church that I go to. And so that's lovely. And like men my age, they've all gone through a couple divorces, like we're all in that kind of same spot where we've lived a very non-biblical life and have returned to Christ. But it is kind of a like, would I actually do that? Would I be like, I'm not going to have sex with you until we're married? So that's still something that I'm like, I don't know about that. But I've also gotten to a point in my life where I'm not as like I've really given it over to God,
Yeah.
bringing a man into my life and like having a 5 acre property. Like having a husband would be really,
Yeah.
really helpful. But it is, like dating's kind of weird as it is. It's all like online dating and all that kind of stuff. And I have no time for that. It's like another reason to be on my phone is like, so that like narrows it down because you're just hoping this person comes into your actual life.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, Christian, I don't know. I just trust that God will bring me the man that's meant for me. And that's like something I was always manifesting this man that was a certain way, certain all these things. And it was never like, God, I want what you want. And so it's like, okay, God, like I want what you want. And, you know, there's always been that like part of me that comes up where it's like, what if what God wants for me is not what I want for me? But it's like you have to trust that he knows what's best for you, you know?
Yeah.
And there's so many crazy like unions coming together, like men and women coming together like quickly and fiercely and like just completely God led.
Yeah.
So just trusting.
Yeah. I mean, you never know.
and then, and then I don't know where it would, you know what I mean?
Well, you'll do. Yeah.
Yeah. It just seems like such a like 20-year-old thing to do. You know what I mean? To
Yeah.
be like "I'm having sex with you until we're married. And then like in your mid to late 40s obviously had a lot of sex, and then, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's also odd because the purpose of marriage is sort of like for creating children, right?
Yeah.
But now you're like past the age of being able to do that. So then it's like, well, it's also interesting, I think, just sex, because I know there's a lot of traditional teachings around sex in terms of like, um, basically just like a lot of religious people will not use birth control or not like um have any sort of like a man can't spill his seed or whatever. Like, and so I've wondered about that because like at the same time there's times of your cycle where you can't get pregnant anyway. Um and then if you're older, you can't get pregnant anyway.
Yeah.
So then you're having sex like with the purpose of getting pregnant, but then you can no longer be pregnant. So it's just it's all very interesting to me because I don't know exactly where I fall on like every sort of uh stance. I think Jordan and I have now, and but I think I actually really want to write a piece about this. Because I do think also like for me, like in a marriage where we are still in our fertile years, like I think I have an obligation. Like basically, we decided to get rid of porn entirely. Like we were just like no more porn ever again for either of us in any circumstance.
Mhm.
And then it was kind of like, well, it also feels bad to like self pleasure outside of each
Mhm.
other. Like I just don't know if that's really the thing. And then but then it was like, well, especially for Jordan, it's like we still have sexual needs. And so then for me, it was like, well, then I'm gonna meet my husband's needs, is what that means. And I think there is a place, like, this is the piece I want to write, is like, about how I think in a marriage, there is a place, like, sex is a duty in this way. Like, people are like, oh, sex can be a duty. And I'm like, but it is actually. Because, like, if
Right.
we're doing that and we're doing it, like, in God's name, because we're not doing this external stuff, it's like we should be having sex often with each other and like be open to each other in that way.
Yeah. Yeah. There, one of the books I is a lot about sex. The Book of Solomon, I
Yeah,
think. And
yeah.
yeah,
Songs of Solomon. I couldn't
yeah,
believe that when I found it.
yeah, yeah. And sex, the covenant of marriage, is not just for children. It also is to protect you from spiritual attack, from the attacks. So when you're in a covenant of marriage, it's like another binding power to keep Satan out, essentially. So that's why my elder was like, that is why I would get
Got it.
married, even though I can't have any more kids. And I was like, oh, okay. But it is like a duty in some senses to please your husband,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Like the more that I become familiar with all of this, like the traditional, and I mean, there was like I think back to earlier generations where women couldn't speak and women were beat and all of that kind of stuff. So there was a lot of bad stuff that happened, but there were also a lot of different values that were in those households that were for our greater good
Yeah.
as women, and it's like, yeah, so I just think of like the feminist movement and all these different things where it's like you shouldn't just have sex unless you want it and da 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 da. And it's like, but there's times that you might want sex that your husband doesn't, but he still pleases you. And is that so wrong? Or is it wrong to just like love and adore and cherish your husband so you're going to give him what he wants? No.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's not taking away your rights as a woman. It's not diminishing you. It's giving him something that he desires,
Yeah.
you know? Like, it's just so messed up the way that our thinking well, from what I like, my parents were divorced, and and so I kind of always grew up with that mindset or that narrative, like that you're always kind of fighting with men. And that's a whole cultural narrative that I think we've all grown up with, that we're at war, is the sex,
Yeah.
like the sex war. And actually a good Christian friend, she's like, well, that's been since the fall
Yeah.
of, you know, when Adam and Eve kind of thing, we've been turned against each other. So can you hear my dog
That's
barking
good.
in the oh, I don't know. I have no idea what he's barking at, but it doesn't matter. Um, and so it is kind of like this, or has been like this war against the sexes. And it's like, well, how can we move into like a co-creative space and like a beautiful union where we're not at war at each other? I think in our podcast episode, I asked you the secret to your guys' marriage, right? And it was like,
Mhm.
you're on the same team.
Yeah. Mhm.
And if you're on the same team, you want to do what's good for each other,
The
you
unit.
know?
Yeah.
The unit, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think this like comes back to this big question that kept coming up for me, which is why I felt like I had to tell people that I was Christian because uh it felt like whenever I wrote or spoke about something, it would bring me back to this point that I couldn't get away from of like, what are we living for? Like, what do, because it all comes back, I think, to what do we feel like we're living for? Because, like, if we're taught a lot in society and even in the new age world, there's a lot of like, I want to get more and more. Like, I want to be something bigger and better. Like, and it all becomes about ego, really. Even if you're trying to get away from it, it's like, I want to be more successful, more, whatever, make more money, be more beautiful, be more, all these things. And um, I think we kind of get this idea that, like, if we've had a successful life, we've like done the things that we think that we should have done in order to be like a successful person. And then, and I think if we have this idea that we're living for ourselves, even if it's for our like self growth or for whatever, that colors everything because then it's like, well, should I have sex before marriage? Well, if I'm about my liberation and my growth, then like, of course I should because I want to have more experiences and more, more things. Like I want to travel more. I want to see more of the world. I want more because it's all
Right.
about me. And that was the shift that I experienced was I felt like my life was ultimately all about me. It was like I want to be successful in these ways. I want to travel everywhere. I want this with my husband. I want this and this and this. And it's like if I'm living for God, everything changes. Because if I'm living for God and living like in this place of love, then like whether I have sex with my husband tonight or not is not about do I feel like
Yeah.
it. It's like, is it like, does it feel loving to God?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like all these things then become colored through that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it's like when I think back to like having sex with multiple partners, it's like, of course that broke God's heart because it's like he knows it's going to break my heart
Yeah.
in the long run, you know, that it's going to, you know, and so it's not that he wants to be like mean and but it's like no, that's what a good dad would do. He doesn't want his daughter to hurt in that way, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also
Yeah.
think too, I mean, like, I think a lot about how beautiful it is, like, to get married young and have that person be your first. Like,
Yeah.
Jordan and I both came to this point, and it was big for me where I was all of a sudden like, wow, I wish that I had only ever had sex with you. And
Mhm.
like that was really sad. And realizing that like yeah, I felt so sexually liberated and I could have all these kinds of orgasms and all these big experiences. But like ultimately that wasn't like what would have been more fulfilling was just having like really loving sex
Yeah.
with only Jordan, even if it meant that like the orgasms weren't as great. It's like it's not really about that. And uh
Yeah.
I also think it kind of burns you out in a way. Like if you get married young and you've never had sex, of course you're gonna have sex a ton with that person and then have lots of babies.
Yeah.
Whereas like if you're having sex with like everyone and you're on birth control or you're like preventing getting pregnant and then you like, you don't have any children and but it's like then you've already had so much sex. It's not as like new, like you're not as the way you would have been in your early 20s when you like had never had sex before and just got married.
Totally. Totally. And those marriages are the ones that last.
Well, I don't know. Is that true? Because sometimes I see like if you get married under 24, you like your divorce rate's higher.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm just seeing the ones in the church. I
Yeah.
don't know about. But then my cousin, him and his wife, they have only ever been with each other. They're still married.
I mean, I don't know. It's also true. My older sister, she's like my half sister, so we weren't raised in the same family system. But she is I think they broke up for like a little bit, but she is married to her boyfriend from when she was like 15 or something. Like they met when she was like 15. And I think they broke up maybe when she was like 18 for like, I don't know, she'll probably listen to this and she'll remember it differently, but I don't know. They broke up for a tiny bit of time. But then like they're married. They've been together now for like 20 years, 20 plus
Wow.
years, and it's just amazing. It's like
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty wild, like what like the breakdown of our society and like the breakdown of marriage and people staying together, like it's till death do us part and just all that breakdown and you see like how it's affected society and it's just crazy. But I know like when I had my daughter, I was 21 when I had Brooklyn, and like the idea of being a stay-at-home mom was like nope, like never. Uh and I wasn't a stay-at-home mom, but it's like so and I judge. I notice this judgment in myself. It's gotten a lot better where it's like if you're like, "Oh, I'm a stay-at-home mom." I'm like, "Oh, like you're not living your life." And it's like how did society shame being a stay-at-home mom, which is like one of the most important jobs on the planet, and then if that stay at home mom homeschooled her kids, whoa. Huge judgment. And it's like, but they had it
yeah,
right. I had it wrong,
yeah,
because all the indoctrination starts when your kid's in school. That's when, you know, somebody told me when you're in your early 20s, you're liberal.
yeah,
And then as you get older, you become more conservative. That is exactly what happened to me. And that's like my daughter's very liberal, not super uber liberal, but, and it's like, well, of course you are, because you've just come out of complete indoctrination. And then if you've gone to university, you're even more indoctrinated, so you're going to be completely feeding into their agenda.
yeah. I got so I was totally I think about a lot. Like I was so focused on like I wanted to experience more of life and I wanted to like do all these things and now I'm like why? Like there really wasn't it wasn't as beautiful. It's hard to know really because if I think back to like who I was dating when I was like 20, I'm like, would I have been? But Jordan and I have come to this conclusion because we've talked about this a lot, and what we've said is like, I think in a different society, like in a different sort of culture around me, I would actually have been really happy getting married at like 19, 20, having a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
But because that wasn't what anyone around me was doing, and it just like wasn't, and because of who I was with like wanting to rebel, being very like independent and prone to exploring and seeking all this stuff, like in this society, like I don't, if I had gotten married at that age, I don't think it would have turned out well for me. And I see some women like, I think it just depends on how you're raised, right? And like what you're surrounded by. Cause I think you could like get married at 23 and choose a horrible person. And then
Yeah.
like, then what do you do? Like, it's just, you can't. So, but I do think too, like, yeah, there's just, I've read a lot about the Amish. I keep talking about the Amish on like every podcast, but because it's, I think there's a beauty in that kind of culture where, and I know there's, it can make it prone to abuse as well, but there is something in that when you're surrounded by community and everyone around you is like getting married young and that's what you do, and the men are so much more responsible at a young age because they're like taught to be, and it's just so different. And I do think like we have to start to look at like what's actually more beneficial and when are people happier, because yeah, I speak to a lot of women in their like 30s and 40s who, same as me, just got a lot of this conditioning. And I've even been saying a lot recently, like Jordan and I met, I was 26. Like why didn't we just get married and start having kids?
How old are you now?
32.
Mm.
Because we were both super in this world of like liberation. For him, it was more like more money. Like I should have like, he got the men's version. I should have more money first. And I should, whatever. We want to have our freedom and we want to, whatever. I don't even know what. But it was like family, like when we first got together, neither of us were like, oh yeah, it's really important to me to get married and have children. We didn't even talk, like we were both just like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like it wasn't even a big, he wanted to get married, to which I was like, he was like, I want to get married, and if I get married, I never want to get divorced. And I was like, well, I can't promise you that because I don't care if I get divorced like 5 times, it would not matter to me. Like I was just so like, but now I'm like, yeah, it's crazy. And I think even with kids, like the past couple years, we've been like, should we start trying? Should we not? Are we ready? Are we not? It's like, stop. I wish that, like, why? We should have we knew immediately. We moved in together right away. I should have gotten married at 27, had kids at 28. Like, why? And should is like like, there was COVID, there was a lot of things that happened. But, um,
Yeah. But society tells you to wait and like,
I just think our top values were not given to us properly. Like we weren't, no one around me was like, get married and have kids. It'll be the best thing that ever happens to you.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like what I saw modeled to me was like, if you do that, your life's gonna end.
yeah, yeah. It's pretty crazy. Like it's so backwards, but it all makes sense that we've been conditioned that way, And then it's like, wow, our whole life is not what it seems.
Yeah.
And, my dog's crying at the door.
Oh,
He needs to go outside.
well, I was gonna ask you a final question anyway. Do you want to let him
Okay.
out first, or you can let him out?
Let me let him out
Okay.
because he's giving me his pain.
Okay. My final question is just, is there anything that you want to say or end with that we haven't gotten to touch on today? Maybe about your journey or about anything. Like, is there anything still there?
That's like a big question. Like, we talked about a lot of things. We did touch on a lot of things. I don't, just to like to follow your heart is like on my heart for some reason, where it's like Christianity is not it's kind of going against the norm in so many ways. Being unvaccinated was going against the norm. So that would be my final thing. Is question everything. And when I left India, because I went to India to do my yoga teacher training, um, the guru at the place that I was at, that's what he said. He was like, question everything. And I think it's so important because we often just go through life with blindfolds and don't question anything. And I think we have to question everything because there's a lot going on that is beyond what we see. And so that's a big thing to do. And to not be scared to like go against the grain, because I think we need a lot more people going against the grain if we want to. Well, I mean, we've already won in so many ways, but we've already won, but could be a little less tumultuous, I think, if there were more of us speaking out to the underworkings of the world.
I think too, something I really loved about Christianity thus far is like it's lends itself very well to questioning.
Does.
Like you're allowed
Yeah.
to question, and like lots of people have questioned the Bible and been like, what does this mean? What does this mean? Like it seems to be quite open to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, if you're searching, like I traveled the world, I was such a seeker, and it was all just like right here, you know, right here, just in the church around the corner kind of thing. So, yeah,
Yeah.
those would be my final words.
Thank you so much for coming on. I really
Thanks.
appreciate it. It's so fun to get, and for me, this is like my first episode getting to like really talk about it, like my own journey with it too. And so it just feels fun to have gone to do that with you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. It was so good. So good.